Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We will, of course, get to the JRC here in a moment, but first, folks, the disclaimers and the trigger warnings. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shots campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links are going to be there in the description box, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Neuroclastic's article where they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program, the very same one the JRC threatened to sue them over, by the way, if they didn't remove the article from their website. Neuroclastic didn't listen, so please read the article, share it around. We have a link to their GoFundMe as well, just in case the JRC does see through with their threat, because, unlike the JRC, we don't have access to unlimited funding, okay? Trigger warnings. When we talk about places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please utilize the headphones. Also, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child's 16 and younger and watching this, parental supervision is advised. Also, folks, as you can see by the title, we're getting ready to deal with the stupid. So, I'm going to reiterate that profanity trigger warning, because probably every single other word out of my mouth while reacting to this stupidity is probably going to be a curse word. Just warning you is all. First off, 16 pages in, and we're finally getting to the first comment, is embarrassing. Why the JRC continues to copy and paste those so-called testimonials that are easily torn into shreds, I really don't know, but I'm no longer a drinking person, but I do hope for that panel's sake that they don't share my weird mutant HH gene and that they have some bourbon present. Because, mother of God, how many times are they going to resubmit the same crap over and over and over? It really does feel like they're trying to wear us down with their word salad stupidity that's never-endingly being repeated to us. Definitely. Comment 1. FDA must gather data and satisfy its affirmative burden of proof under the banning statute and the APA. This is the same crap they tried last time. It was explained to them in explicit detail why they were wrong, but the JRC is going to try it again for the billionth time. Let's read the stupidity, and then we'll go over it. Congress has deliberately set a high bar to justify an order to ban a device. The FDA make substantive findings that there is a risk that an illness or injury will occur. The risk is substantial, the risk is unreasonable, and labeling cannot eliminate or reduce such a risk. These findings must be based on all available data and information, which includes, at a minimum, all data held by the device manufacturer, which can be compelled by the FDA if necessary, as well as information volunteered by others. For the love of God, they have already done that. They've already done that. But you gotta use all the data. Any data that the JRC presented in their defense that was from a case study or notes or whatever that they didn't produce themselves is over 40 fucking years old. Okay? And I'm sorry, but the FDA, as well as the sane world, are never going to give the same amount of weight in regards to data to something that old as opposed to clinical studies that are being now produced with the current standard of care the same weight. It's horrendously outdated. The FDA didn't even have to include it at all. But in order to try and shut the JRC up, they painstakingly went through every single paper that's over 40 years old for transparency reasons. The reason why the JRC continues to hammer this stupidity over and over and over again is because by reviewing those papers that are horrendously outdated, it still does not eliminate the risk of the device. Which means the potential so-called benefits are by far outweighed by the risk. Now, as far as proving such risk, go to Autistic Hoya's massive archive real quick. In there, you're going to find ER documents, a part of several different court cases that took place against the JRC. What do you mean, all evidence? You can't say it's a risk when we've got literal ER documents explaining injuries in explicit detail. What the hell else do you need? But all the information, ER documents, survivor testimony that backs up all the things stated in those ER documents. We have video surveillance footage, whistleblower former staff testimonies that are, whether the JRC likes it or not, backed up by what we have clearly seen in video surveillance footage. This is one of the most, or should be one of the most, open and shut cases on planet Earth. And here we are. What is it else you want them to find, JRC? The gold at the end of the rainbow attached to a leprechaun? A unicorn? Jimmy Hoffa and an oil drum? It's ridiculous. All available data was gone over painstakingly, including the data that the JRC presented. You want to know why that data was not accepted, JRC? It's because there was no controls of any kind. Also, the JRC has mentioned that the GED device is supplemental to an overall treatment program. With no controls, we cannot say whether so-called positive changes happen due to fear of the GED device, or if it is the success of, the non-physical pain-inflicting part of the treatment program. All you provide is on the GED device. You do not detail what the rest of their programs are or what methods you use. Nothing. Nothing. Also, in speaking in that data, in particular, if we're looking at a study like this, most programs will also include in said data in regards to whether those behavioral changes last. So like most recent study read from Yale, we're talking about 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20, 25. And when you go back to those students, are those changes still there? The JRC has provided absolutely zero follow-up data in regards to their treatment program. Once a student leaves the JRC, unless they're viscerally fighting to keep someone there who should have been moved to adult services a long damn time ago, they don't do any follow-ups with the kids that leave the program. So we have no way of knowing, and they have no evidence to give us that show that these behavioral changes that the GED caused actually are real changes or not, because there's no follow-up. There's no nothing. Their clinical data is a wreck. Their so-called studies is word salad that would be embarrassing to a third grader presenting at a science fair. Okay? Their data is not taken seriously because it's a joke. And if they ever tried to submit that to like something along the lines like Psychology Today, for example, you want to talk about being laughed out of a room. There's no empirical data with the right controls with proper follow-up that the JRC can provide to us that show us in any way conceivable that the benefits outweigh the major risks. Also, this idea, but you have to prove it's a risk, again, what else do you need? ER documents, video surveillance cameras, survivor testimony that backs up the ER documents and the video surveillance, whistleblower, former staff coming forward, backing up what you see from video surveillance and in the ER documents. Again, I ask you, what the hell else do you want the FDA to find? Jimmy Hoffa in an oil drum? For God's sake. This is what I mean when they just copy and paste this crap like nobody responded to it the first 10 million times. They cannot provide us with any real recognizable data that show us the so-called changes that they testify about are long-lasting, permanent positive changes in overall behavior that follows the student long after they are no longer on the device and no longer at the JRC, because the data, I'm going to be point blank here, doesn't exist. These people do not know how to conduct a proper clinical study whatsoever. So to continue to say, but they have to review the data after they've already explained to you that they did. The people that did support this nonsense that weren't the JRC are horrendously outdated by literally 40 years. The data that they did provide should be laughed out of a room, and everybody should light a candle for the poor tree that had to die for them to print their nonsense. I mean, what else can I even say there, folks? Another thing that they're going to talk about is information volunteered by the parents. Here's the thing. They say our evidence is anecdotal, right? You want to know why it's not necessarily anecdotal? Because the survivors that have testified are backed up by literal video surveillance footage and ER documents. The parent testimonies are simply parents' testimonies. You're always going to give more weight to the witnesses who have hard evidence that matches up with what they're testifying about over a parent that is literally going with the just trust me bro defense. Okay? We're talking about a federal department, not Twitter. We're going to close on that. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do tend to get removed from time to time. Please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. I appreciate your time. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. See you later. Goodbye.